When the snowpack cracked like thunder, Beverly Klene actually tried to quote the covenants at it. She screamed over the echoing boom, a lit Roman candle still clutched in her mittened hand. "I am the president of the Frost Pine Bluffs Owners Association. This is a designated celebration slope." Her sentence was swallowed by the sound. A deep, rolling roar made every window on our block vibrate. Up on the ridgeline, a white fracture line ripped across the loaded slope, and then the entire face of the mountain started moving. Neighbors stopped mid-toast in their driveways. Kids dropped sparklers. One of the board members actually whispered, "Is that supposed to do that?" Spoiler.
No.
30 seconds earlier, Beverly had been bragging about how our HOA can override alarmist avalanche bulletins. Now she was standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac watching several thousand tons of snow accelerate toward her party. I was already in my bright orange jacket, yanking the emergency air horn I had mounted to the light post. Inside. Basements. I shouted, voice cracking. "Move now." The sheriff's truck, which I had invited up just in case, flipped on its siren. The deputy's face went from bored to white as the avalanche fanned out, filling the entire width of the drainage. Beverly just stood there on the common area snowpack, fireworks fizzing uselessly in the cold air, as a white wall roared straight toward her block. My name is Oliver Kane, 39, structural engineer and part-time ski patroller. I moved to Frost Pine Bluffs, a luxury alpine community tucked above a ski town in Colorado, because the brochure promised modern mountain living and the realtor said I would love the views and the snow. She said the HOA takes care of everything. That last line turned out to be a threat, not a promise. Frost Pine Bluffs clings to the side of a mountain like a very expensive barnacle. We have got steep driveways, mandatory dark green siding, and a homeowners association obsessed with visual cohesion in the winter landscape. Enter Beverly Klene, HOA president and self-appointed empress of snow. Late 50s, platinum bob, outerwear that cost more than my car, and the unshakable aura of someone who believes the mountain is part of her personal brand. Beverly's kingdom was the clubhouse at the top of the loop, its walls lined with framed copies of the CC and RS and tasteful snowflake art. Her email signature included HOA President, Frost Pine Bluffs, Curator of Community Harmony and Aesthetic Snow Management. She loved the phrase "our slope." She said it like she had bought the mountain with a Nordstrom card. My crime, from the moment I arrived, was that I knew things about snow she didn't. And I had the audacity to act on them. The first clash was over flags. I installed a small blue and orange marker pole at the top of my driveway. Standard issue in snow country, so the plow wouldn't shear off my mailbox. Beverly knocked on my door 10 minutes later. "Oliver," she said, smiling like a dentist, "we don't do stakes here. It ruins the pristine snowfield look." "It's a driveway marker," I said. "For the plows. It's in the county handbook. We have our own guidelines." She handed me a glossy packet. "Please review Section 12. Snowpack Preservation." I skimmed it later. It was deranged. Highlights included residents shall not place markers, fencing, or barriers that visually disrupt the continuous snow blanket. Roof rakes are discouraged because natural snow loads contribute to the alpine chalet aesthetic. Avalanche warning signage requires HOA design approval for font and color. I sent a polite email linking to the county's avalanche hazard map. Our continuous snow blanket was literally labeled a runout zone. Beverly replied that our engineer at the developer said it's fine. Besides, avalanches are more of a backcountry issue. We are a curated residential environment. I was that engineer's replacement. I did this for a living. When the season turned unstable, big snowstorms, then warm-ups, then more snow, I quietly installed a low-profile snow fence and deflection berm at the edge of my property. All within code. All designed to slow and split any slide that made it this far. 2 days later I got a violation notice. Unapproved earthworks on community slopes. Remove within 48 hours. I requested a hearing. She scheduled it for 8 a.m. on a Tuesday, then forgot to send the Zoom link. She started circling my house on foot with a clipboard, making notes about unsanctioned path cutting where I had shoveled a trench to my propane tank. She scolded my neighbor for wearing a bright orange jacket because it clashes with our winter palette. The town posted an avalanche warning bulletin for our ridge. Beverly forwarded it with a comment. For context only. HOA policies govern resident activities. I had never seen someone try to overrule gravity with a PDF. The disaster seed was planted when Beverly announced the first annual Frost Pine Fire and Snow Spectacular. She pitched it at the board meeting like a TED talk nobody asked for. We'll have mulled wine, artisanal s'mores, and a fireworks display on the upper common slope, she said with enthusiasm dripping from every word. It will showcase our community as the premier winter destination. I raised my hand. You can't set off fireworks on a loaded north-facing slope during an active avalanche warning. That's not just dumb, it's... Oliver, she cut in sharply, this is exactly the alarmist mindset I've been talking about. I've consulted with our engineer. Your engineer designs hot tubs, I said. Not snowpacks. She ignored me and went ahead with her plan, applying for a town fireworks permit using, I later learned, some very creative geography. She described the launch zone as flat community parkland instead of start zone above a residential runout. The fire marshal denied it. Too steep, too unstable, too much risk. So Beverly did what any deeply reasonable person would do. She did it anyway, under the heading of private HOA activity, insisting the town had no jurisdiction over their internal celebrations. She moved the launch site higher up the common area to take advantage of the fresh, untouched powder field for photos. That powder field was, in every avalanche model, the worst possible place. I saw the setup that afternoon. Racks of consumer fireworks stuck into the snowpack, right on a convex roll where the slope steepened. Beverly's assistant posted an Instagram story with the caption Avalanche Who? #Snowpack is my runway. I sent one last email to the HOA and carbon copied the county avalanche forecaster, the town, and the sheriff. Subject line. Imminent risk from HOA fireworks on start zone. To my surprise, the sheriff actually called. Is it really that bad? He asked. Let me put it this way, I said. If you're coming up tonight, don't park in the cul-de-sac. By the time the party started, I had already prepped what I could. I had knocked on doors and told my nearest neighbors, if I blow the air horn, you go to your basement. No questions. I had gently suggested they park their cars on the far side of the loop, behind my deflection berm and not in the main runout. I couldn't stop Beverly's show, but I could try to keep it from killing anyone. At 7:30 p.m., the snow was glowing blue under floodlights. Neighbors clustered around propane heaters in the cul-de-sac, the entire block staring up at the slope where Beverly, wrapped in white faux fur, stood like an evil snow queen with a lighter. The sheriff's truck pulled up just as she lit the first fuse. He had clearly come planning to give a stern warning, take some photos, and leave. Then the first fireworks cracked off, sending concussion waves through the surface layer of snow. Nothing happened. Beverly turned, triumphant. See? Fabulous and safe. She lit more. A whole row went off in a staccato barrage, thunk 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 into the slab. A hush fell. For a heartbeat, all we heard was the hiss of sparklers and the crunch of boots. Then the mountain whumped. A deep, hollow sound like someone hitting a drum the size of a house. A fracture line shot across the face of the slope. I didn't wait for confirmation. I grabbed the air horn and laid on it, then screamed, "Basements! Go!" The sheriff's eyes went wide. "Everybody inside now!" he yelled into his radio. "We've got a slide breaking." Snow began to move slowly at first, then accelerating. Trees bent and disappeared. A billowing, turbulent mass of white charged down the drainage toward our block. And Beverly, standing dead center on the pristine snowpack she had protected from my ugly fences, finally realized that the mountain had not read her bylaws. She tried to run. The sheriff grabbed her and physically dragged her toward my side of the loop, toward the berm I had built. The avalanche hit the lower slopes and fanned out, split by rock outcrops and, crucially, by the subtle earthworks along my property line. The main flow surged around my berm and snow fence, deflecting away from the house cluster where I had told people to move their cars. It plowed into the celebration gazebo Beverly had insisted on building in the common area last year, turning it into toothpicks, and then buried the ornamental boulder she had once threatened to fine a neighbor for leaning against too casually. The far side of the cul-de-sac got a heavy dusting and a block of compacted debris that shoved one BMW into a snowbank and kinked a street lamp. Scary, expensive, but survivable. Nobody died. No one even broke a bone. By sheer luck and a few shovels of proper snow science, the worst damage was to HOA property and Beverly's front porch, which vanished under 6 feet of consolidated, airtight irony. When the snow settled, the only person standing waist-deep in the heaviest debris zone was Beverly herself, shrieking, "This is common land. The Avalanche will answer for this." In the days that followed, Frost Pine Bluffs went from exclusive community to cautionary tale. The sheriff's department launched an investigation. So did the town. So did the county avalanche center. Every one of them asked me the same question. "You warned them, right?" I handed over the emails, the hazard maps, the denial from the fire marshal, the party flyer that literally said HOA fireworks on the upper slope, "Town can't stop us." The Avalanche Center wrote a report that was not subtle. It included phrases like entirely preventable event, gross disregard for posted hazard information, and unauthorized fireworks directly contributed to slab release. Local news ran the helmet cam footage from one of the neighbors, who had been filming the fireworks and accidentally captured Beverly announcing, "As HOA president, I overrule the Avalanche bulletin. We create our own safety standards here." That clip went viral. Within a week, Beverly was facing a stack of citations for illegal fireworks and reckless endangerment. A civil suit from the HOA's own insurance provider, seeking to recover what they had to pay out for the damaged gazebo, street lamp, and common areas. Personal lawsuits from 3 homeowners whose property got buried after she insisted they move their snow fences to restore the view. Her defense in the first hearing, "This was a community decision made in my role as president," went over poorly when every board member testified that she had bullied them into it and threatened fines if they disagreed. The judge, a guy who had apparently spent his youth on ski patrol, looked over his glasses at her and said, "Miss Klene, neither your title nor your aesthetic preferences exempt you from the laws of physics." The town revoked Frost Pine Bluffs status to self-manage certain safety protocols. The county required an independent engineer to review all future HOA decisions involving snow loads, slopes, or anything heavier than a snowman. I got a consulting contract out of it. Beverly got something else. A permanent restraining order from having any authority over safety, infrastructure, or emergency planning in residential communities within the county. For a woman who lived to write guidelines about which direction people could shovel, that was the equivalent of exile. The final tally came down hard. Beverly was ordered to pay $75,000 in fines for the illegal fireworks and reckless endangerment charges. The civil suit from the insurance company added another $120,000 in damages. The personal lawsuits from the 3 homeowners cost her an additional $90,000 combined. That's $285,000 total. When the judge read the final amount, Beverly's face went from red to white to a shade of purple I didn't know existed on the human spectrum. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping on a dock. Finally, she managed to choke out, "This is a witch hunt. I was protecting our property values." The judge simply replied, "You were protecting nothing but your own ego, Miss Klene. Court is adjourned." Beverly walked out of that courtroom a broken woman. Her reign as Empress of Snow reduced to a pile of legal bills taller than the avalanche debris that had buried her porch.